Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link. Come back at you on Thursday, July 28th, 2022, for your final issue of the Bungie Weekly Blog, This Week at Bungie, for the month of July. This time around, we've got two really big bits of news to talk about. The first is some information about the incoming raid we're set to dive into in Season 18 next month, I do believe. After that, we're going to be learning about some major changes coming to the way PvP matchmaking is going to be working in future seasons. Yeah, you might have sniffed it in the water. We've got some conversations about skill-based matchmaking making a return to Destiny 2. We'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first, in a section titled Raid the Date, we've got some happy news. Coming up in Season 18 will be Bungie's second go at bringing a raid out of the Destiny content vault. And this time, it's going to be redacted. We'll be learning about which raid it's going to be from the past in the future. Specifically to be revealed on the Destiny 2 showcase on August 23rd, next month. But Bungie wanted to make sure you had the time to make any arrangements necessary to be ready for the raid on day one. And so, the incoming raid is going to be going live at 10 a.m. Pacific time on August 26, 2022. And because this will be a raid that many of you are already somewhat familiar with, they're going to be changing up the world's first race a bit, similar to how they did with Vault of Glass. Here's what you can expect. The raid will launch with contest mode enabled for the first 24 hours, and you will need to be at 1560 power to be at the cap for all of the encounters. Clearing the raid with contest mode active is the first step to access the new challenge mode in the director and the special triumph for completing all of the challenge triumphs for each encounter. Completing the secret triumph, a curated list of challenges in this newly unlocked challenge mode, will be how a fire team crosses the world first finish line to claim their prize. And to enforce the triumph requirements in the challenge mode, your team will wipe if you fail the success conditions during any encounter. Challenge mode and the secret triumph will only be available for the first 24 hours, so make haste if completing it is on your bucket list. The first fire team to do so will be declared world's first winners, pending a review from Bungie's team, of course. If everything checks out, the final 6 members of the winning fire team in the activity will be awarded the coveted raid belts as a monument to their achievement. Good luck. So there we go, Guardians. The raid's going to be going live on August 26, 2022. Meaning, we're going to be probably knee-deep in a new season of content by that date as well. And we'll be learning more about it 3 days prior to that on August 23rd for Destiny 2's big showcase. We're going to be learning more about the future of the franchise. Very exciting stuff here. We do know this is going to be a returning classic raid. I do believe it's supposed to be a raid from D1. That leaves basically 3 options, but really 2. Crota's End, King's Fall, and Wrath of the Machine. I don't know if the way I said that kind of gave away what I hope it is, but either King's Fall or Wrath of the Machine is what people are expecting this raid to be, and I, for one, cannot wait to learn more about it next month. Now, from that exciting bit of news, we have other news, so to speak. This is going to be a talk about skill and connection in the Crucible. There's going to be a lot of stuff here. Bungie goes into great detail about how they're going to be working around with matchmaking, and we're going to be going over some of the big highlights there. If you want to get all of the juicy tidbits, I'll have a link to the TWAB in the description box below so you can go and check it out. But here's what you need to know. Starting in Season 18, Bungie's going to be introducing some changes in how they play Matchmaker in the Crucible. This will be the first iteration that is part of a larger plan that's going to go through Season 19. Their World Systems team are leading the charge in this transition and are here with a big info dump on what to expect. But here's a too long didn't read version of what we're going to be going over. Bungie's going to be striving towards a goal that all players, including new lights, can enter the Crucible and regularly get matches where they can feel competitive and have a reasonable chance of winning and competing. They'll be focusing on making fair matches using skill-based matchmaking. Yep, SBMM is coming back to the game starting next season, and it's going to be important to help meet that goal. They're starting by implementing a loose variant of SBMM to the control playlist at the start of Season 18. Loose skill-based matchmaking will have a wider starting skill similarity than survival and should result in matching with a wider variety of players, while also eliminating some of the frustrations they see in their current system. You can expect this looser form of skill-based matchmaking to expand to other playlists in the future seasons as they tune what they consider to be a high-quality match by gathering real data and feedback from players. They're not planning on adding it to every match-made Crucible playlist, but they will continue tuning it until they feel they're in a good place. And in addition to this, they're going to be implementing a form of fire team size preferred matchmaking in Season 19. Now, let's hit some of the highlights here. Because Bungie goes through a lot of detail about how they generally work out connection levels between players versus their skill levels. And they even go into what they look at when they come up with that term, basically skill, for their skill-based matchmaking. It's actually kind of interesting stuff. I definitely recommend going into it. But one of the big things Bungie focused on was what they call the problem space. And that was matches where they feel players have the ability to influence whether or not their team wins or loses. They note that in certain game modes like Control, they feel like that's kind of out of individual players' hands. And they state that in the current sandbox, this can feel bad, as the match outcome feels essentially random and you don't feel motivated to try and win. This has contributed to Bungie de-emphasizing winning as a requirement to gain rewards in the Crucible. Me, if you want my personal opinion, well, I can definitely understand that. We've all had that time where we solo queue into a game of Control and you feel like you're the only person out there making a difference for your team. You're the person capturing plates, actually getting kills and pushing that score up, but nobody else is, and there just feels like you're being dragged down and there's no way you can win. That definitely feels bad. I would say a better fix, rather than, completely revamping the matchmaking, if that's something Bungie's worried about, would be to make Clash the perennial, forever available Crucible game mode instead of Control, and make Control the one that's on a weekly rotation. But hey, what do I know? Anyways, Bungie is looking to add some more variance to the skill pool here, so that higher skill players will be less likely to match those on the lower end of the bracket, maybe people who were brand new to the game. And so they're going back to a form of match balancing. At the start of Season 18, Bungie's going to start tuning match fairness, in their terms, back up in Control and only Control in the Crucible. They want to start slowly to limit the number of playlists they consider when tuning matchmaking with hundreds of thousands of people. They can do testing, but nothing can fully simulate how the full population will be affected by these changes before they ship it live. And so they're going to be live tuning the matchmaking parameters over the first few weeks until they land on something that provides a better balance between fairness, quality, and speed. Bungie states that we will not be touching any other Crucible playlist during Season 18. Trials has no planned changes to its matchmaking, Elimination and Glory will still use the same skill-based matchmaking they've been using, and everything else will still use the connection-based matchmaking they have been using for years. They're currently planning to make further adjustments in Season 19, but rest assured, any major changes will be communicated either in a TWAB or in a blog post, as well as in patch notes. So essentially, for those who don't know, Bungie used to have a fairly strict variant of skill-based matchmaking, where the game, in Crucible, would try pretty hard to match you with people it considered to be of your skill level. In previous years, some would even say it did so at the detriment of game quality and match connection. It didn't care if it was matching you with somebody from a different continent. If they were in the same skill bracket as you, you were getting a game with them. This didn't really create the most healthy environment for Crucible, and player numbers really suffered for it. And so, eventually, Bungie moved towards a more connection-based matchmaking environment, which is what we have now. Skill-based matchmaking absolutely still exists in the game, though it's mainly used outside of specific playlists like Control and I think some of the weekly playlists like Mayhem and Clash and stuff like that. But with this, it looks like Bungie's going to be moving back towards a more skill-based matchmaking-focused Crucible, at least starting with Control in Season 18. And if the entire notion of skill-based matchmaking is confusing to you, here's how Bungie describes it. Better known as SBMM, skill-based matchmaking uses a similar model to connection-based matchmaking. In addition to latency, skill-based matchmaking uses skill similarity when asking to join a lobby. Like latency, the acceptable skill similarities will expand over time. First, Bungie will identify a pool of available players with a good connection to you. This is when you're matchmaking into the Crucible. Within that pool of players, they will choose players closely matched to your personal skill rating. And if they can't find players within that pool, they'll widen the variance in skill. If that doesn't work, they'll expand the search again with more variance in connection quality. And once enough players are selected, they'll break them out into equally skilled teams. Now, to start these changes off in Season 18, Bungie is going to be implementing what they call a loose variant of skill-based matchmaking, which is basically going to start your matchmaking with a wider acceptable skill variance between you and another pool of players. And Bungie states that their goal in doing this is to create more match fairness without compromising on matchmaking speed and connection quality. And to that end, Bungie's going to be looking at minimizing matchmaking time so you're not spending 5 to 10 minutes up in orbit looking for other players who are at least close to your current skill level. They're looking to cut down on a number of games that generally go to mercy in these Crucible game modes. And in an interesting bit of news, they're looking to more heavily tackle the problem of pre-made fire teams stomping all over solo players. Now, this is going to be a change that isn't going to go into effect until Season 19. But essentially, Bungie's going to be looking towards implementing a form of fire team size preferred matchmaking. So that if you enter into the Crucible matchmaking as a fully stacked team, or possibly even as like a half team or whatever, it's going to do a better job of trying to match you up against other fire team stacked players. And we'll be learning a bit more about that probably as the season goes on. But alright, there we go, Guardians. That's pretty big news. The re-implementation across the board of skill-based matchmaking is something I'd say a few people probably saw coming. If you can't tell about the way I'm talking about it, I was never really the biggest fan of skill-based matchmaking. Y'all old heads for Destiny 2 remember how bad this game's connections could really kind of get back in the previous era, so if Bungie's going to be bringing it back, hopefully they figured out a way to better balance matchmaking speed and connection quality if they're going to be throwing in that skill variance as well. But those are my thoughts. I cannot wait to read you guys' thoughts on the re-implementation of skill-based matchmaking starting next season. Season 18. But alright, last thing we got to talk about, you guys had yourselves a little bit of a trials vote. And well, those votes are in. Eternity is the community pick map for trials on the weekend of July 25th. That's this weekend, baby. So thank you to all of those Guardians who went out there and made their voices heard. Because of you, we've got our pick for the trials map this weekend, as well as access to a brand new emblem. You can go pick it up over at the Bungie rewards page. And actually, I lied. We've got one more thing to talk about. Twitch Prime Gaming rewards. That's right. End of another month, which means the beginning of some more rewards. For those who don't know, if you have an Amazon or Twitch Prime Gaming account, you can link your account to your Bungie account and then enjoy some monthly Eververse rewards on Bungie. This time around, they're giving out the Flip Out exotic emote, the Takanome Wings exotic ship, the Constricting exotic ghost shell, and the Spaded Knife legendary sparrow. Make sure you go and check them out. Of course, if you haven't ever linked your account, I'll have a link to this stuff down in the description box below. You can find it in the TWAB. But alright, Guardians, that's pretty much it for the biggest bits of news contained in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly blog. This week at Bungie. Really big news this time around. Cannot wait to hear the community's response to skill-based matchmaking making its return. Ooh, this is going to be another salt storm, and I'm ready for it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all latest stuff we're putting out. I'm out for now. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.